Shalom, shalom, shalom. This is the brother Kadar Bond of GMS Gulf Coast. I'd like to start by giving all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh. Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem, Rakah, Quadash. Double honors are given unto the apostle elders of Great Millstone, men who have labored and suffered in this truth for over 30 plus years, making their lives and their bodies a living sacrifice. I also like to send a shalom to the hopefully elect, the 1/3 of the nation of Israel, the speckled birds scattered throughout the four winds of planet Earth, north, south, east, and west, which consist of men, women, and children in that order. I also like to send a shalom to the various GMS camps, elders, and heads. And last but not least, I'd like to send a shalom to any of you Akim, not named GMS, but walking one body, one spirit in Yahweh Shai, with this 100% true teaching and preaching 100% truth as it is taught to us all by the apostle elders of Great Millstone. To you all, shalom. Real quick, Abaratazai, Lord willing, this be edifying. Just another update upon, just filtering the prophecies that we see on the television. These daily prophecies. They're disguised in news reports and deceptive lies, enchantments, and sorcery and lies and so forth and so on, But buried in it all, buried inside of all of this is the truth of the scriptures, And the Lord said, and I think it's in the book of Ecclesiastes, aka Sirach 39, it says, "Be ye and I'm just paraphrasing. Matter of fact, let me go there real quick. I said it. Let me go there real quick. We'll come back. Real quick. Let's start it out. This is Ecclesiastes, aka Sirach. And this is the point that I was bringing out. Didn't want to chop it up like a Japanese chef. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 39, verse 1, and it reads, "But he that given his mind to the law of the Most High Yahweh has given his mind over to the law. He's no longer content with the world. He don't believe in the Lord loving everyone and do as thy wilt. He's not good with the LGBTQ, PTQC, whatever letters they want to add on to that abominable way of living. He's not good with the way these so-called pastors have led the people of Israel, so-called blacks, Latinos, Native, and Seminole Americans, astray. He's given his mind over to the law, meaning the law has not been done away with. But he that giveth his mind to the law of the Most High and is occupied in the meditation thereof," and that word meditation goes into mental exercise, "will seek out the wisdom of all the ancient and be occupied in prophecy." And that, for lack of better words, is why we do what we do. It's why we do what we do concerning these news reports and whatnot. Now, the thing that's going on now is Gravitas, as of August the 25th, 2022, the United States and Iran trying to strike up a new nuclear deal. Now, during the Trump administration, he abandoned that. But now, this go around, you have a Democratic-led government. You have the Democrats in that hot seat. So this really plays. This goes toward who will be sitting in the seat, of the presidency. As far as these deals being followed through, or they reneging on them. Because as we know, the Republicans, Donald Trump's administration reneged on those deals. But during the Barack administration, they made these deals with the Iranians. So, hey. But the subject matter is that how do you think these Iranian, how do you think their game plan is to be weeks, months, years down the road, as they see it? How do you think this is going to play out as far as their leadership, their mindset, their do's and their wants, according to them and their people? How you think this is going to play out dealing with these wishy-washy so-called white people over here in the West? They're just playing along with the game until they can get the ups on the United States. That's plain and simple. Plain and simple. Anyway, Trump abandons Iran nuclear deal he long scorned. Trump pulls out of Iran deal. Let's play this real quick.
In just a short period of time, the world's leading state sponsor of terror will be on the cusp of acquiring the world's most dangerous weapons. Therefore, I am announcing today that the United States will withdraw from the Iran nuclear deal. In a few moments, I will sign a presidential memorandum to begin reinstating U.S. nuclear sanctions on the Iranian regime. We will be instituting the highest level of economic sanction. Today's action sends a critical message. The United States no longer makes empty threats. When I make promises, I keep them.
Mind you, sanctions. This is the number one thing that these people run to, I did a video dealing with that. That's why you have the BRICS alliance. That's why you have what you call the BRICS alliance now. They're coming up with their own monetary system outside of the U.S. because the U.S. likes to throw their weight around after they got everybody, 44 plus nations, on that gold standard. They suspended it and moved their money being backed by the oil, natural resources. And they got 44 plus countries to agree on this bilaterally. And in retrospect, in hindsight, they created the IMF, or the International Monetary Fund, and the World Bank, and in doing so, they got everybody to be able to trade and do business in U.S. dollars. Now, mind you, Russia, China, India, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa are now dealing in a new currency. They were not included in those 44 countries. And therefore, the United States was able to throw their weight around along with her and her allies. Now, mind you, I believe it's what it is. Turkey is trying to seek an application with these BRICS nations. And one would only think that maybe Iran is going to do the same thing here shortly, because the gig is up with as far as the Americans and their allies go. They're trying to bully and push folks around. You know, it's either our way or the highway. You know, you just had the U.S. Secretary of State down there in South Africa, and the president of or the Prime Minister of France down there in South Africa, trying to bully the government of South Africa around. And come to find out that South Africa, the government of South Africa, has joined with the BRICS, or with BRIC, which makes them BRICS. You know. So the United States is losing her influence over the world as far as who does what and when and how. These sanctions are becoming empty threats. Like you heard Donald Trump say, they don't make empty threats. Well, if they're dealing in a different currency and they're able to sustain their economies without the U.S. dollar, then that's all it is, an empty threat. Anyway, let's read. It says right here, here we go with this. President Trump said pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal sends a message that the United States no longer makes empty threats. Whatever. Anyway, we're gonna move along fast. It says Washington. This is May 8, 2018. President Trump declared on Tuesday that he was withdrawing from the Iran nuclear deal, unveiling the signature foreign policy achievement of his predecessor, Barack Obama, isolating the United States from its Western allies and sowing uncertainty before a risky nuclear negotiation with North Korea. It says the decision, while long anticipated but widely telegraphed, leaves the 2015 agreement reached by 7 countries after more than 2 years of grueling negotiations in tatters. The United States will now reimpose the stringent sanctions it imposed on Iran before the deal and is considering new penalties. See? Here we, and think about it now. I'm about to play a little clip here from Gravitas. And Biden over there is trying to reignite this. Mind you now, Biden was a part of this deal because he was the vice president during the Barack administration. So he's just revisiting the old agreement. And mind you, Esau Edom, a so-called white man, is notorious for not honoring his own contracts, his own treaties, his own agreements. He has a history. Check his track record. You don't have to make up nothing when it comes to dealing with these people. They're notorious for reneging. And then they want to call the North American Indian Gad, Indian giver. That's just what you call projecting, because the true Indian giver, or savage giver, is himself, the so-called white man. It says the decision, while long anticipated and widely okay, I read that. It says Iran said it will remain in the deal, which tightly restricted its nuclear ambitions for a decade or more in return for ending the sanctions that had crippled its economy. So did France, Germany, and Britain, raising the prospect of a transatlantic clash as European companies face the return of American sanctions for doing business with Iran, China, and Russia. Also, signatories to the deal are likely to join Iran in accusing the United States of violating the accord. See? Anyway, let's go real quick. Bob Shaw, we don't want to be too long. Let's go to this little clip that I had keyed up. Yeah, right here. Let's go right quick.
Have you ever wondered what would happen if you actually sat down and talked with missionaries from the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? Well,
diplomacy is slow, nerve-wracking, and sometimes boring, all of which is true. But it's way better than the alternative. Like Winston Churchill said, to war is better than to war. In West Asia, two old foes are trying to do that, Iran and the United States. First, some background. In 2015, Iran signed a nuclear deal with world powers. The terms were quite simple. Iran will halt its nuclear weapons program. In return, the West will lift all sanctions. As simple as that. Iran would be free to trade in the global market. But 3 years later, this deal collapsed, courtesy the United States. Then President Donald Trump was a vocal critic of the 2015 deal. He felt it was not tough enough. So what did Trump do? He unilaterally pulled America out of it. No discussions, no consultations. As always, the US did what it wanted. Trump went on to reimpose sanctions on Iran. He called it the maximum pressure campaign. Did it work? Well, quite the opposite. A defiant Iran accelerated their nuclear program. Today, they have enriched uranium to 60%. If they reach 90%, it is weapons-grade uranium. They could make a bomb in months. They're at 60%. Enter Joe Biden. Reviving the nuclear deal is on top of his foreign policy goals. Frankly, it's do or die for him. Biden failed to stop the Taliban in Afghanistan. Biden also failed to stop Russia and Ukraine. So with Iran, failure is not an option for him. Last year, he began indirect talks with Iran in Vienna. It was a really complicated setup. The US and Iran did not talk directly. They talked via the European Union. 16 months later, the deal is closer than ever. Right now,
He talked via the European Union. We just read that they was gonna put sanctions on Britain and all these other European companies. You understand? So, hey, the United States has made, it's old saying they say in the world, you made your bed, now you lie in it. They've made a very, very toxic bed to lie in, and they're gonna have to lay into this. They're gonna have to. They can throw around that persona as though they still the big boys on the block, this, that, and the third. But evidence shows otherwise. These people are done. It's that same old song, this place is finished, and the prophecies say so. This place is done. The ruling elites have had their fill with this experiment called America. And we're seeing the last days of the empire in which the world has seen as America.
all sides are exchanging drafts. The European Union sent their version to both Iran and the US. Iran suggested a few changes. The US made some observations. Now the final decision lies with Iran. Their officials are studying America's response to their draft. A lot of back and forth. If they agree, if the Iranians agree, we could have a deal within days. Which brings us to the document itself. What are the key points? We can divide them into two parts. The first is sanctions relief. 17 Iranian banks and
mind you, now listen to this right here. Look at this right here. It says tension rise against as Iran considers draft deal, right? And you know, Iran and Israel are just mortal enemies. It's just like the lion and the hyena. But this is what the U.S. officials, the head of states of the United States have come to because of all of these failed sanctions. You know, the U.S. dollar is collapsing, and they're gonna have to blame this on somebody. And just like and there's no slight at women overall. If the shoe don't fit, don't worry about this. But just like a woman, she never takes responsibility for her actions. Never. This is the attitude that the United States has shouldered, has carried on. Has worn as a badge of honor. They never take responsibility for what they've done. You understand? So the crash of this dollar, the demise of this inflated Federal Reserve note, someone is going to have to take the blame. And the United States is trying to set it up so that when they do have to start throwing weapons of war around, you know what I'm saying, they're going to have a good game plan, a good lie to back it up. And further keep the American public, by and large, fooled. And not only that, they're gonna need the American public to be the bagging, the back them up, because when they reintroduce or reinstitute the draft, You know, you're going to have to be fully convinced. The American public going to have to be fully convinced on the lie, you know, in order for you to give up your sons and daughters to go off into a war where they ain't going to never return.
150 financial institutions will be freed of sanctions. That would release billions of dollars in frozen assets. Iran would also be able to sell its oil. The second part is the nuclear program. Iran will reverse the enrichment process to acceptable levels. What are acceptable levels? Under the old deal, it was 3.7%. The idea is to reduce the breakout time, meaning the time required to make a nuclear warhead. The new draft puts the breakout time at 6 months. Now for the sticking points. If the talks dragged on for 16 months, clearly there are serious differences. And 3 of them are crucial to reaching an agreement. Difference number 1, the question of the Iran Revolutionary Guards. Now, this is a branch of the Iranian armed forces. The guards do most of Iran's dirty work in West Asia. Right now, the US has listed them as a terror group, which means there are sanctions, there are travel bans, even asset freezes. Iran wanted the US to delist the Revolutionary Guard to remove them from the terror list, but the US refused to do that. Now, according to the latest reports, Iran has relented on this point, meaning they've dropped the demand to delist the Revolutionary Guards. It's a huge climb down. Difference number 2. Pending investigation by the UN.
Mind you, they declined, they withdrew their application for the Iranian guards to be taken off the lead list to be named a terrorist organization. They want that damn bomb bad. You see, pay attention to the detail.
Atomic Agency. In June, the Atomic Watchdog passed a resolution against Iran. They found uranium traces at 3 undeclared sites. Obviously, they wanted to investigate it. Iran refused. Iran said only those investigations mandated by the 2015 deal will be allowed. The new ones must be dropped. So
going back to the Barack administration.
That's a big point of disagreement. And finally, difference number 3, political assurances. Most Republicans in the US are opposed to the nuclear deal. If a Republican becomes president again, the US could walk out of it. So Iran wants assurances, both political and financial assurances. The problem is Joe Biden cannot give any. You see, the Iran deal is not a convention or a treaty. It's only a political agreement, sort of like an understanding. So the US Congress cannot ratify it. The future of the deal depends on who occupies the White House. If it's a Republican, the deal is off. So these are the 3 big differences. If both sides make some concessions, they can work around it. But even then, one obstacle remains, and that is Israel. They're trying every trick in the book to prevent this deal. Defense Minister Benny Gantz is flying to the US. He will meet with top Pentagon officials. His mission is quite simple, a last-minute appeal to bury the deal. Prime Minister Yair Lapid is also doing his bit. He says this deal will allow Iran to...
It is. Israel. Those Amalekites. The small hats. Well, we're going to see how all this is going to play out. But by the way of the scriptures, we know how it's going to play out.
Destabilize the region.
On the table right now is the bad deal. It would give Iran $100 billion a year. This money will not build schools or hospitals. This is $100 billion a year that will be used to undermine stability in the Middle East and spread terror around the globe.
It's not just words. You can see the tensions escalating in West Asia. In the last 2 months, Israeli jets repeatedly penetrated Iranian airspace. Each time, they were undetected. So Israel is preparing on all fronts a diplomatic and military offensive, despite being so close to a deal.
Now, mind you, whenever Israel, those Israeli, whenever they make any aggressive moves on their neighbors, Iranians, Palestinians, they're never held to sanctions like any other nation have done. If you check out the history of the relationship between the U.S. and Israel, those Israelis, they're never held to the consequences of their actions, and furthermore, they're not sanctioned as other nations have done. So you think these other nations don't see that discrepancy, that biasness? The United States act like that's that dumb now. You know, like that. There's no more smarts to these politicians or these university professors or these think tanks that they have over here. They act like they're all ignorant. They're all stupid now, and that's all scripture. Anyway.
The rivalries have clearly not faded. On Wednesday, the US struck 9 ammunition depots used by Iranian proxies in Syria. At least 6 guards were killed. The strikes followed attacks on US forces in the country. It's a very interesting dynamic. The US says the strikes will not affect the nuclear deal talks. Iran says they have no links with the proxies. So the situation in West Asia is extremely tense. If the deal is struck, it could alter the regional power equations. For starters, think about the money. Iran will be able to sell 1 million barrels of oil every day. That's billions of dollars in oil revenue. Their industries, their foreign assets, all of it will be unfrozen once the deal is struck. It is a big deal. But the political impact could be much bigger. The first nuclear deal was also a normalization deal. The goal was to integrate Iran with the global economy. This time around, things have changed. Iran is ruled by a hardline anti-Western president. He is not interested in rebooting ties with the West. He wants to move Iran closer to the East. I'm talking about Russia, China, even India. Within the region, Iran's proxies could get more support. The draft does not talk about Iran's influence in Lebanon or Yemen or Syria. It does not limit Iran's support for its proxies. So in theory, Tehran can restart the West Asian Cold War with Saudi Arabia. A lot depends.
And that's enough of that. Real quick. Okay. Let's go real quick. Let's see. This is This is Obadiah 1. Because these are some real, like I said, Esau, or rather these white folks here in the West, they act. It's not an act. The Most High is removing that cunning, this craftiness, or rather the real slickness. He's removing that from them. You can tell, because these Edomites over here, these so-called white folks over here, at least the leadership, they're getting real desperate. They're being told to do things that are very blatant and very easy to make out. As far as their political moves and how they're gonna move with these different nations, world leaders and whatnot. It's very obvious if you're paying attention to this. This is Obadiah. Let's see. This is Obadiah chapter 1 and verse 5, and it says, let me start at verse 1. It says, this is the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord Yahweh power concerning Edom. And Edom is another word of saying Esau, or this word knows them as the so-called white man. We have heard a rumor from the Lord Yahweh, and an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye, and let us rise up against her in battle. And you're about to see that. You're seeing these things are coming into play day by day. Each news report that comes out concerning America and her allies and her enemies, her frenemies, let's put it like that, her frenemies. These are days, weeks, months, moving closer to the demise of America. It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. And we heard Donald Trump say that they're making no deals, they're honoring no deals with terrorists. And they're throwing words around, in such a way where everybody is on the up and up on this man's record. And when I said this man, this so-called white man's, his track record, he's the terrorist. He's the one that's going around regime changing, using his CIA and his political hitmen and economic hitmen and things of this nature here. You know what I'm saying? They've been doing this for generations, for decades now, you know. And the kings of the earth, these other world leaders, just went along with it because it profited them, you know. But it done played out because the people, one thing that they could never buy over was the people of those world leaders. They could never get them on the same. You could never get them on code with the world leaders that they was putting up in power. They could never get them, you know, could get them on the same page. The people, and we know by way of the prophecies in the second Ezra 16 and 15 that they're going to be uprisers of the people, sedition among men. So that switching out a man here and there, you know what I'm saying, to suit your political or your business needs or whatnot, that's all played out. It says, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. It says, the pride of thy heart hath deceived thee. Thou that dwellest in the cliffs of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Who shall bring me down to the ground? And we just use Donald Trump as an example. Very proud Edomite. Everything comes out of his mouth for the most part. It's proud in nature. It's proud in his exception, and the root of what he's saying is proud. It just oozes out of his pores. Just proud. You know, lies and being prideful. Who gonna bring America down? When you got an annual defense spending bill of over $800 billion. Yeah, these crackers got something to be proud about over here. No, these rednecks, these cave maggot knuckle dragons, they got something to be proud about. And being as carnal nature as he is, he believed that, you know, his defense spending budget, shit, all the nations together don't add up to America's defense budget, you know. So he believes in his armory. He believes in his gun. He believes in his sword. To death do them part. It says, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, and though thou set thy nest among the stars, thence will I bring thee down, saith the Lord Yahweh. And all of these Edomites, all of these so-called white nations, they all brandish the eagle. I think Russia has a double-headed eagle, you know, on their flags and whatnot, which is a representation going back to the Roman Empire. All of them are just the same people, just reincarnated. Yes, I said it, reincarnated in today's present day, doing the same thing that they were doing back then. When you study Greek and Roman history, you know, you go into the Maccabees, Antiochus, Ptolemy, those Caesars, you know, Julius, Nero, and all. These are these same people reenact this walking today in suit and ties, doing the same thing. There's nothing new under the sun. It says, if thieves came to thee, if robbers by night, how art thou cut off? Would they have stolen till they it says, would they have stolen till they had enough? And we know that's not to be the case because they want all the natural resources under the ground. They want the wells dried out when it comes to the U.S. and the natural resources of these other countries all over the world, you know what I'm saying, especially here in their backyard, South America. They want it all. They can never have enough. This man can never have enough. It says, if the grape gatherers came to thee, would they not leave us some grapes? No. Look at the homeless here. This is supposed to be the richest nation on planet Earth, and look at these people. These so-called white folks were given the blessing. They were given the rule of the dominionship over the world, and yet their own people still walk around here as vagabonds which they are, begging for change and whatnot. You know. But the ruling elite of the white folks got hundreds, if not trillions of dollars. You know what I'm saying? That shouldn't be a hungry so-called white man on planet Earth. But they are. Shows you. It says, verse 6, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? Huh? Real quick. Let's see how. Because, see, now they got what you call nowadays the Internet of Things. This is Psalms 19, and it reads, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. It says, day unto day utter speech, and night unto night sheweth knowledge. So anytime you want to, you can go and click on your Fire Stick. You know, all you gotta have is some internet service, Sparklight, Comcast, and you know, and you're connected to the World Wide Web of things. And on there, information is numerous. You know, it's just like Apostle Elder Tahar said that the internet was created for the elect of the nation of Israel. All this other stuff is just, you know, collateral damage. Just, you know, just garbage for the multitude. You know, Facebook and World Star Hip Hop and Backpage and Fans Only and the list goes on and on and on and on. But this loophole was made for us. Lord willing, we love men. It says, day unto day utter speech, and night unto night sheweth knowledge. There is no speech nor language where their voice is not heard. And you can click on and hear the name of Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua spoken in the Philippines. They speak their language, and then when they get to the name of the Lord, they say Yahweh by Hashem Yahushua. They speak the name of the Lord in the Paleo Hebrew. It says their lines is gone out throughout all the earth, and their words to the end of the world. In them had they set a tabernacle for the sun. So the Internet of Things. This is how he is sought up. This is how you find out all these things about. It's like you find out you find out all these things about this devil. You know. It says, verse 6, how are the things of Esau searched out? How are his hidden things sought up? It says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. It's the men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee, and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread have laid a wound under thee. There is none understanding in him. No. It says, so shall I not in that day, saith the Lord Yahweh, even destroy the wise men out of Edom, and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? It says, and thy mighty men, O Teman, shall be dismayed, to the end that every one of the mount of Esau may be cut off by slaughter. The wise men of Edom, the move that the United States are making now, it just goes to show you that the Most High has removed wisdom from this man. And wickedness is not wisdom. It's very, very slick cunningness. It's just like the scripture said, he was a cunning hunter. I think one of the brothers, it was Brother Lachima had mentioned, he said that Esau is a cunning hunter. It didn't make him the best hunter, but he was a cunning hunter. You follow what I'm saying? So his wickedness, the cunningness has played out. You can only do this for so long before the people catch on. What's that old saying? You know, trick me once, shame on you. Trick me twice, shame on me. And I think that's the latter part now. These nations say, shame on me. But they're playing the United States, you know what I'm saying? And then why? It's because the Most High has removed the wisdom. They done played their hands so many times that they know which hand that they holding back and which hand they going to fold. These other nations, they know. The Most High is putting on them, you know. He made them hated amongst the heathens. You know what I'm talking about? Despised. They getting ready to gather up and ramsack this Edomite over here. I'm gonna close out with this. This is Isaiah 34:2, and it reads, For the indignation of the Lord Yahweh is upon all nations, and his fear upon all their armies. He had utterly destroyed them. He had delivered them to the slaughter. Now, it says, let me see. Let's see. No. It's like it. I think it's in Revelations where I was going. Is it 18? Yeah. Yeah, this is Slakia. Disregard that. This is Revelations 18 and verse 2, and it reads, and he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, and has become the habitation of devils, and behold of every and the whole of every foul spirit, and a cage of every unclean and hateful bird. It says, for all the nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through her abundance of her delicacy. Yeah. So the Most High is getting ready to destroy this place. You know, Americans have gotten rich. These Edomites over in America have gotten rich by cooking schemes. You know, coming up with gold-backed dollars, and then later on reneging, and the dollars are really not backed by nothing, because these countries now are starting to do trade between one another. They're reneging on the dollar, because guess what? You know, they can't turn them dollars in and get gold, silver, or whatever was supposed to be backed by. So they're reneging on it and creating a currency amongst themselves. And ultimately, we know that the banksters, the people who are really running things, you know what I'm saying, they're going to put all of these nations under this one world rule, and ultimately try to put all the people in subjection. We know that that's coming. That's all of this. That's all we're seeing, you know, is the fulfillment of Revelations chapter 13 and verses 15 through 18 coming to be. We're watching that. We're seeing these things come to play. But anyway, let me close out. I've been rambling long enough. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory to the Most High Yahweh B'Shem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostle elders of Great Millstone. Shalom.